Families Teamsters, 1932.org.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and MBRradio.us. We got to bless the show before we get started. Let's go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also, streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind. If you are in your vehicle and you got to get out, make sure you go to kcaradio.com and click Listen Live or Watch Live. Tonight's episode of the Farron Dozier Show, special edition of the Life Towards Sports. I have three guests that are going to be calling in, and we're going to have some conversations on some important topics that for me are important, but also to these guests who are sharing their stories and what they're up to in the community, right? And so I just want to be able to have this space. You know that if you've tuned in before, that this is a variety show, community outreach. We talk about sickle cell. We talk about veterans, suicide, youth suicide, mental toughness. We talk about all level of sports, from elementary to professional sports. And so I just want to make sure that, we keep this continuity of this consistency of having these topics brought to you. So I've been an advocate for lupus for, probably about since 2011. One of my soldiers, his wife had lupus, and he was on his second deployment. And on that second deployment, he was in the car bomb, roadside bomb. And I remembered that his wife was battling lupus. And so, it was put on my heart to do something for that family. His wife took off to Texas to be with him. He was severely burned. And it just made me think, here he was, fighting in a foreign country for his family and for this, for this country. And his wife was home battling this foreign disease. And so it was a perfect dialogue for me. And so I had a fundraiser. We raised some money for them, some gift cards. I had the Lupus LA come out and do a presentation. But what was the difference in that conversation was Kimberly Dansby. I had not met her yet, but my friend's son had went to the prom with his daughter, with her sister. And when I told him what I was doing as far as this event, his son said, "Oh, I know somebody that does kind of what you're doing for sickle cell trait, but she does it for lupus." And so he introduced me to her, and as I'm sharing with her, what I'm up to in the event I want to put together, and I mentioned the car bomb in Afghanistan, and she was like, "Hold on, wait a minute, did you say car bomb?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "In Afghanistan?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she said, "My best friend from high school was killed in a car bomb in Afghanistan." And come to find out, her friend from high school and my soldier was in the same vehicle, and he died in that roadside bomb. Now, we couldn't script that. That was nothing but God that led that and put that together, and that allowed me to start to be integrated in the lupus community. I started doing more shows and having friends and just people come on and talk about lupus. So I share my platform not just about sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease, but all different types of chronic illnesses that I've had over these last few years. So I want to make sure that if you want to follow me or you have questions, at Farron Dozier on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can go there. I'm not in the studio. I'm actually online. I had a game today with my Ventura County Orcas, the ABA team, down in San Diego against the Legends. And we took a loss definitely a tough loss to take today, but yeah. So shouts out to my players. Shouts out to the coach. This is a brand new team. This is our first season together, so they're learning how to gel and play together. And it's just some minor things that we need to tweak to be successful. But at the end of the day, this basketball platform for me is more of a ministry than it is about the chasing hoop dream. See, because I understand that people have identity crisis like I did. I was in the military. I played basketball, and so to understand the experiences of human beings, that's something I talk about on this show. I understand that developing men is going to be really the most important thing, because whether they play with me next year or they walk away, I for those that are willing, right? Because everybody's not willing to self-examine themselves and take a look at their own heart to see where these behaviors are coming from. But those that are willing to do that, we provide a curriculum, we provide conversations around these identity crises, because the most important thing for us as human beings is to belong. That sense of belonging is so important. And sometimes that break in communication between us and our families, it gets fractured, and you grow up, and what we learn at a certain age, between 12, 13, that elementary to middle school age, that transition period, if you're not communicating with your parents because you've been disappointed, or you think you've been disappointed in your parents or your mom or your dad or whoever's raising you, then you don't communicate with them that much anymore. And so what happens is the child turns to their peers for acceptance and for the sense of belonging. And we all know that peer age is all trial and error, right? And so that's the reason why I purchased these ABA platforms. Right now I have 3. I have the Ventura County Orcas, I have the Riverside County Mavericks, and I was blessed to take over the Inland Empire Hounds. And so for me, it's developing these men. Men don't really get a lot of services. It looks like we do, but we really don't. So where can we have these kind of conversations? Well, I found a platform that, yes, we're going to chase this ABA championship, but also about developing men. All right, so again, thank you for listening to this first piece. I believe my guest is on the line, so we're just going to get right into this conversation. You're live with What's the Count?
Hello, it's Shanika Martin, a.k.a.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for taking time out tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, again, I kind of shared a little bit about the lupus and my relationship to the community. But do me a favor, introduce yourself to the listeners, and we'll get started.
Yes, my name is Shanika Marty. I go online by Predictive Lupus Chick. Lupus has been a part of my life, my entire life, actually, because my mother had it, and then I was diagnosed with it. And I recently had a kidney transplant 2 years ago, actually, on Tuesday. But I've been advocating in her name prior to me being diagnosed. It started off with, learning everything back in the 90s. And nobody knew anything about it, and me being her advocate and caregiver. And then from there, I took it on, I want to keep her name alive. I did all the walks. I partnered with LFA. And then once it became my fight, and I made it everyone's fight, because everyone shouldn't suffer alone. We should all fight together. So I'm a big lupus advocate now, a rare disease advocate, because on top of lupus, I do have 13 other autoimmune diseases. I'm associated with the National Minority Health Association, various other foundations. I'm actually the president of the Northern California Lupus Foundation, and affiliated with a few others. My day job, besides advocacy.
Your day job.
Yes, the other stuff is paid by smiles and happiness. This one, the one that I receive a paycheck for, I am a cybersecurity project manager, social media influencer, and also a IT consultant.
Wow. Again, thank you for coming on the show and sharing. As a a basketball player and someone who now just plays basketball and owning teams, ABA teams. When I saw your flyer come up for the All-Star Weekend, I thought, that was exciting to be able to have an event like that during All-Star Weekend. But more when I saw your cause, and I was like, oh, I got to get her on here to share about the lupus awareness. So that was what attracted me to not just the basketball, but again, as an advocate myself, as a supporter of the lupus community, I saw that, and so I immediately messaged you to be a part, and you acknowledged that. So thank you for that.
I wanted to make sure that another way that we can raise awareness in the lupus community is by capturing everyone that's going to be in the Bay Area. I mean, what better way than the All-Star Game weekend that is going to be in the Bay? There's going to be tons of people coming in from various places, and none of the events that are occurring incorporate health. So myself and the co-founder, her name is Danica Collins, or AKA Danica the Diabetic, we figured, we're both health advocates. How can we make this fun? How can we raise awareness? And basketball on the other side with my dad is a huge thing. I'm a Sixers fan, even though I live in the Bay. I'm originally from over in the Philadelphia area. And so me watching Dr. J and everyone that was there at the championship game with Allen Iverson, I've always followed sports, especially basketball. And I was like, you know what, we need to do this. And our event, as you saw, and the listeners who are not aware, called we just formed our LLC, Beyond the Game Health. And this portion is called Slam Dunking Challenges in the NBA. So we have former NBA players that are going to be talking about their health challenges. One of them does have type 1 diabetes, Gary Forbes. And then we also have a mental health advocate, Dr. Jermaine Jones, who used to be a Warrior and also was a Sixer. Now we just actually signed on. He's from Confusion Hoops. He's a celebrity basketball player. He's going to be a part of the slam dunk contest. And Jeff Rocker, who is a celebrity therapist, a mental health advocate. I mean, at the end of the day, even though our causes will be giving back to lupus and diabetes, mental health affects us all. And there is no magical pill, especially when we think about treatments. As long as I've known it, there are so many people that get the treatments, but they're still not mentally strong. So it's great that we will have some talks about that. So we will have the generous donation from UCSF giving us their building, one building for the health screening, which we will be conducting glucose screenings, blood pressure checks, and giving information about organ donation. So UCF is giving us their Genentech atrium, and then the other building is the gym, which will have a youth clinic. So we want to make sure that the youth will be able to move around and get things going, and that'll be held by one of the former NBA players. There will be some more special guests that we want to wait to announce this week, but it's going to be a very fun event.
Wow, that sounds like it's more than exciting because, again, for me, the causes, right? And I want to touch on your lupus conversation just a little bit before you go.
Yes.
Some people aren't aware of lupus and how it expresses itself, right? And sometimes it can be. We've noticed that it's inherited, as you said. You have people in your family that had lupus. Sometimes it's by environment. Sometimes I've heard people express like they were under stress that triggered it. When you talk about lupus, what is like the most important thing that you want people to know about?
Number one is I'm glad that you brought that up because I can talk about that for hours. But to keep it really short, I'm proud to announce that I have achieved remission since November of last year. And it was one of the reasons why I moved. Like you stated, environmental and stress changes. I was under an enormous amount of stress when I lived in the Philadelphia area. And the factors of just trying to make it and achieve something because I was a young mother, the stress of that. And when I started to look at what my mom went through as a single mother, raising her own mother who was bedridden, and then 2 kids. And I was basically, every time that she was down, I had to take over. But the stress of that I could see took a toll on her. And she tried to overcompensate. She did more than what she should. The environment part was the cold. My husband kept saying, I hate you always get really bad when it's cold. We need to get you out of here. And he kept petitioning, we need to move to California. And I kept saying, no, I don't know anything else but Jersey. I don't want to leave. I don't care. And then finally, like, every time he's like, I got a job there. As soon as we met, he had a job.
Wow.
And with Pacific Gas and Electric. And he turned it down because he knew I was not going to go. And then every year since then, and I was like, you know what, fine. I'll just give you this little bit contract for 3 years. Here I am now, 10 years later. And I'm, getting better. And it was a good move. And I try to tell other people on the East Coast, like, if you can, I think it's better for you. And also the sun, being out in the sun. We're supposed to be allergic to the sun, but then we have to take vitamin D supplements to supplement the sun.
Right.
And I just feel as though we have more of the exposure here that attributes to it. So taking it as a holistic view, and most women have it more than men, and we bear that stress. So that's why what you said leads to it. And I know as coming from my mom and then other people that I meet that have it in their family, it's not uncommon, is what people think.
Right. No, thank you. Because it's so important, because in the sports area that you're into, like myself, the next generation, and I don't like saying it because people use that as a cliche sometimes. Like, they are the future, the children, the next generation, and we want to take care of them. And someone has to be able to get them in a room and say, hey, look, you need to pay attention to these things, and stress and trying to, and what's driving you. Like I said, these chasing the hoop dreams for these basketball players, for me, I know what it feels like as a soldier in the Army for 24 years. When that identity was lost, I was lost. And the stress and the anxiety of trying to figure out what's next and just taking on all these life things. And sometimes it impacts our well-being and our health.
It does. And it's just the stress of life. And that's why incorporating into our panel just mental health and things that you can do. One of the speakers, Jermaine Jones, has in his youth clinic a diary that he makes that all the players do. How did you feel today? What are you going through? What's going on through your mind? And keeping that diary, and it's not just for them to write it. He'll read it and be able to, pull them aside. Hey, I read what you wrote. Let's talk about it. Let's take some things aside after practice so you don't feel, because a lot of men and young men don't want to talk about it. It is very well aware, and I tell people all the time, I'm not happy all the time. Yes, I get mad when I think that my body's going to comply, and it just doesn't. And it is frustrating. It's okay to be frustrated, but don't let it eat you alive.
And what we teach is the human being flaw. As I dealt with my own life experiences, I looked at Maslow's chart, right, of hierarchy, right, and he tells you that in his philosophy is the basic needs of human beings, right? You've got to have food and shelter and all these things. And that's what the mind, the soul needs that to survive. But when I went to the spiritual aspect, it was like, seek God first, and all that stuff that Maslow was talking about is going to be given to you. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, you really have to have that mental toughness to recognize what's driving you in life.
And that's it. And it's not, people just overcomplicate it. And other factors, this person has this person has that. The biggest thing I hear in the lupus community, and it probably is with other diseases, I mourn the person that I used to be. And I'll just end with, stop focusing on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do. You're still valuable.
Yes. The mind will always, I won't say always, but it definitely looks for the lack in life to see what do I need to survive. And so it looks for that stuff that, it thinks it's lacking. But when you really tell the truth, are you really lacking that? And you may not be, but look at what it does, to our health. My next question for you is the transplant. How was that for you?
It was rough. I died for 1 minute and 49 seconds.
Wow.
I didn't even know until I woke up. It was literally that way. When you get a kidney, they wake you up and you're in, like they want you to get right up out of recovery. So, you're under anesthesia. They woke me up and I'm still in the operating room and I see all these people moving around, but I really couldn't see straight. I just saw bodies moving. I couldn't make them out. And all of a sudden, all the pain hit me and I kept saying, no, I feel the kidney in me. And they were like, yeah, you got a new kidney. And I'm like, no. There is no anesthesia going on. I can feel the kidney. I can feel it's lodged in me. And they were like, what? And I just started having seizures and I gripped the rails of the bed and I was trying to rip them off because I was trying to offset the pain. And then when they saw that, they were trying to inject me with something and it wasn't working. I was like, it's not working. And then they put the mask on me and I went out. But when I came to, finally, I couldn't speak. They had ruptured my vocal cords when they intubated me. And I didn't know. And I was like, why do I sound like I smoke 10 packs a day? And they were like, oh, yeah, so we intubated you. We had to stick a tube down your throat. And you lost oxygen. You died for about a minute and 49 seconds. I'm like, wait, what? And then my kidney didn't, usually it's supposed to jump start. And it didn't, jump start. It wasn't agreeing. My numbers weren't going up. And I started to retain all of this fluid. When you don't have a functional kidney, you retain fluid. And I'm like, it isn't working. And I'm thinking about all the stats that say, this happens. And I'm already PTSD because anything that is a side effect I usually get. So long story short, everything is fine. Of course, I'm here. Now, it will always be the mental aspect. My mother passed away 7 years after she had her kidney transplant. I was just like, okay. And she was 44. And at the time, I was 44. I'm sorry, it was just 43, about to turn 44. And I'm like, oh, my God, I got to make it past 44. So it's been a long journey. I had to get 3 more biopsies after that because it was very slow to work. Wow. And so I just kept my faith, this is not, I'm not my mother.
Wow. Again, for most people who listen to my show, they know that 99% of my show is organic. So I have never heard none of this, y'all. I'm listening to this for the first time, like you are, because this is how I love my show, because I had no idea what you went through in that conversation. So thank you again for being open to share that story.
Yes, I hope that it can help other people. I'm actually, just very big on kidney awareness, chronic kidney disease. A lot of people don't know the process. They just think, you're approved, or, you have to do dialysis. I could, just school people on how these things happen, because it was utter shock. And when my mom went through it, I was 13. You can't expect me to remember everything that happened then.
Wow. Again, give them the your Instagram so they can follow along and find out how they can get involved with the awareness and especially also. And
please, if you can, if you're in the Bay Area, you're looking for something to do, stop at the health panel. It will be at UCSF Mission Bay campus, and my Instagram is at Pretty Sick Lupus Chick, all together, no other special characters, just Pretty Sick Lupus Chick with a K. And you can also follow our new page, Beyond the Game Health, at Beyond the Game Health. But again, check it out. It'll be February 15th, this coming in 2 weeks, at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And if you are really special, just a little hint, come between 9 and 10. There may be some NBA players, current ones, that might drop by. There will be a raffle for some Warrior stuff, so please do that. And all proceeds, because we're not making a dime from this, all proceeds go to juvenile diabetes and juvenile lupus for UCSF.
Thank you. Thank you so much for, again, your time tonight. Everything that she mentioned will be on our sports page at Sports Collective Media on Instagram, so make sure you check that out. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
I appreciate you. Good night. All right, this is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also, streaming from the KCAA Redcom website, the system leaves no listener behind. That was that first segment there. I hope you enjoyed that. If you know anybody dealing with lupus or having any other chronic illnesses, make sure you share the episode or have them reach out to me so we can get those stories told. Again, we would love to have people share their experiences with us on the show. Shouts out to my crew, the Sports Collective, Heem Factor, and In the Zone. They are not in tonight, but again, they'll be back shortly. And then we're going to play this PSAs and come back for our next guest right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Thank you so much.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes. In moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org.
Muchos de nosotros nos vemos afectados por la enfermedad de células falciformes a diario y un número creciente simplemente no nos damos cuenta. Los impactos de esta enfermedad afectan a todas las personas y en especialmente a las personas de color y con antecedentes diversos. Estar en servicio conmigo y con los demás a medida que creamos una mayor conciencia sobre cómo identificar y dirigir el tratamiento de los rasgos de células falciformes y ayudar a las familias a saber cómo superar el trastorno de células falciformes. wdconsct.org. Gracias por su atención.
All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, for me, my main cause is my sickle cell trait. That was the Spanish commercial. But if you want information about sickle cell trait, wdconsct.org. That is also another reason why I bought the ABA basketball teams, is because I wanted to have a platform. Just as she shared in her lupus segment about getting professional athletes and athletes involved. Again, before we're soldiers and athletes, we're people. We're human beings first. Doesn't matter what skin color you are, we're people first. And so one of the main reasons, besides the mental toughness and mental health conversation, was about having a platform to talk about health and wellness. And for me, sickle cell trait and rhabdomyolysis is more of a health and safety, because people have died from sickle cell trait exertion with rhabdomyolysis. And so the medical community is trying to figure out, is it the sickle cell trait? Is it the rhabdo? And so as we're advocating and having conversations, anybody can experience rhabdo. Anybody can experience rhabdo. But there are certain things that can go on in the body or trigger the rhabdo as well that could make it more susceptible to having, at worst case, sudden death, right? And so that's really the two things of my conversations personally, is the activity of the community, is the sickle cell trait, but also for the experience of myself in life, the experiences of life is about men and developing men at the different ages and the different phases of life. And maybe going back and healing some of those childhood traumas and some of those childhood fractures or wounds or things that emotionally thwarted our sense of belonging and our integrity. So those are my two causes for my basketball platforms. However, as I become the owner of the IE Hounds, and we launched, the Ventura County Orcas, and we launched this season. I also, with the mascot that we have, is the orcas. A lot of people think the orcas is the whale. Well, it's in the dolphin family, and so by that being our mascot, I wanted to do some research and some studying, and as I began to do that with the logo and the mascot, I found that the orcas in certain areas are endangered. And when I did my research and studying and looking up, I discovered on the West Coast over here where we are, there's about depends on the pods, but I was told that there's a certain area where there's like about 90-something left. And then most recently I found in the Monterey area, Northern California pods, there's about 73 that are left. And so I looked at that, and honestly, looking at the Bible and looking at some of these things that I care about, the Bible talks about that we're supposed to take care of the earth, right? But not just the planet, but we're supposed to dominate over the animals and over the land. And that's something that touched my heart as well, because it's like, hey, that's what Adam did. He named all the animals, and he was supposed to dominate and take care over these creatures. So what better way for us to gain knowledge and understanding for those that might care about the dolphin community or the killer whales, that they can have a space to help us support that and take care of that. Is my guest here? You live at What's the Count?
Oh, this is Fred. Can you hear me?
How you doing?
Great. How about yourself?
Man, I'm good, man. Thank you for, again, responding to my message, man.
Yeah, absolutely. When I saw that there was an Orcas team and you guys were getting into the conservation of it all and just kind of spreading awareness, it was really exciting to see, and happy to be on right now.
Yeah, thank you. Do me a favor, introduce yourself to the listeners.
Absolutely. My name is Fred, and I am the Orca Man. Largely, you'll find me on Instagram or TikTok talking about killer whales in the west coast of North America and the world.
Fred, I got to ask you, what got you involved in this orca world, man?
Dude, it was back a long time ago, the movie Free Willy, actually.
Right?
Oh, it does it, man. There was a whole kind of generation of us, I think, that came up with that movie. And I know when I first saw it, I was really interested and excited about, befriending a killer whale. And then I thought about becoming a trainer, then a researcher, and landed in this space of conservation and education that I am so grateful to be part of up here in Canada and Washington.
Wow. Yeah, people, I think that's our generation of Free Willy, huh?
Oh, big time. It was 1993. 1993 right there. Yeah, it was a big one to come out. I think one of my biggest things came out in 1993, the same year as The Sandlot and The Nightmare Before Christmas, and they beat both of those in the box office. And I don't think a lot of people remember that. It was a huge thing when it came out. Michael Jackson was on it, and it was so big that they ended up freeing the whale in the movie. Like they hired an actor whale to do a lot of the stuff, and then everybody kind of came together and actually went to free that whale, which was definitely not expected by the producers or anybody that put the film together.
One of the things that has made me even look at this advocacy work or the awareness piece of the killer whales or the orcas is their food. I did not know that their main source of food was salmon and cod.
Mm-hmm. So,
speak to that.
Yeah, so orcas are really interesting and weird animals. And you're exactly right. There's orcas that specialize, the ones you were talking about before, the 73 left, those are southern resident killer whales here. And so there are different populations of orcas all around the world, like you were talking about in different places. And so the 73, those are specifically salmon eaters. They specifically eat this kind of like big, they call them king salmon. Used to be like 40 or 50 pounds, like a pop, and they're slowly going over time, but super, super specialized. And then we have there are some orcas off of California that are different kinds that eat whales, and there are others that are a little bit north that eat seals. There are some that we see like going in, Antarctica and stuff like that. But the fish, to be so kind of specialized to a specific kind, is both incredibly kind of unique in their ability to develop a hunting strategy for that, and it's now a bigger problem because there's less and less salmon, it seems like, every year for a whole number of reasons.
Fred, man, I'm getting emotionally chills right now, bro. You're gonna be my new best friend, man, because I really want people to just have an opportunity to get a sense of what's going on with these orcas, right? And
totally.
I wasn't really a big fan of salmon, but you know how your family introduced you to food. Now we're all cooking salmon, and now, Fred, I'm so torn, bro. It's hard for me to eat salmon now, man. It's like now I understand what people talk about with the eating plant-based foods because of the animals. Like I'm caught, Fred. Like it's tough.
Hey, it's hard decisions to make out there, and it makes sense. One thing I will say though is I wouldn't be as worried necessarily as going out and buying salmon in the supermarkets. Of course, we all want to buy sustainable in general. The world is what gives us life in all different ways. But one of the big kind of conversations around salmon right now in actually California, Oregon, Washington, and even British Columbia is there's a lot of dams in critical salmon habitat. So you probably heard, salmon come upstream to lay their eggs and die. Yeah, and so some of these places that are like critical streams where, you get millions of salmon a year at one point, they have been blocked off by dams used for power in one way or another that are not necessarily being used as much anymore. So there's a campaign in Washington right now called Breach the Dams. There's specific ones that they're working on up there. But to be able to give the salmon a greater ability to recover, I think is even more important than, or it's a different level of importance than, you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on the grocery store, but there's many different ways to look at the problem.
Man, Fred, like I said, I just want to, say thank you, man, I'm almost in tears, bro, because this has been something that has been so important to me. And I reached out to other orca organizations, but I had a couple respond, but not really respond like you did as far as like, I want somebody to share this, to me it is important, man. So I'm just looking forward to however we can collaborate as far as bringing some awareness and like we even have a curriculum for our elementary school students to learn about these endangered species. And again, our mascot is endangered, so we want to make sure that we're going to start our program with that one so that
I love it.
Can get to know. And you never know who you might discover in these children, the next, scientists or whatever. You never know in these communities that we get involved in, man.
That's awesome. No, I super appreciate it. It's one of the things I think that I was really excited about when I first saw it was just the excitement to be able to share and to be able to get people involved. It's a core tenet of what I do, and as far as I'm concerned, if more people are talking about it, more people are getting excited about the animals, that's a good thing. And the more we could do that, that's awesome. So I'm going to turn the question that you asked me back onto you for real quick. Was Free Willy also what got you into orcas, or was it another avenue with just the mascot? I'm curious.
Yeah, it was a mascot because I had worked with another team owner, and he had the territory. He had named that team in Ventura County the Orcas, and so when I purchased it from him, I just kept the mascot. It was a nice mascot. So, his mascot wasn't nice at first. I redesigned one, and the one that we got turned out really good with the basketball and the orca in it. And like I said, at first I wasn't even looking at as a dangerous species, but once we started getting to the schools and having these conversations, I met a guy who played for the Lakers, and he played Bigfoot in Harry and the Hendersons.
Okay.
And so he's up to doing things around endangered species. So it was a perfect time because we both had been looking. I had been looking at the endangered species, and I met him, and he was talking about doing an endangered species. So it was a perfect match with he and I. And,
Cool.
And so the mascot was the connector.
I love that. No, that's really, and to be able to, when you put on any jersey, you're representing a place, you're representing what's on there, and so to take it to the degree of, the animal itself, I commend you heavily for that. And I have a bit of an exciting news. I'm not sure if you know this, but one other big orca fan is Ocho Cinco. I've come to find out.
Really?
Oh, big time! I didn't realize that until recently. But he's all into killer whales. He's got a few tattoos. He talks about it a decent bit on various channels. But orcas in sports is definitely, it's as far as I'm concerned, up and coming.
Exactly, man. Give them your Instagram so they can follow you along, man, and then I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, you got it. You can find me at the Orca Man everywhere. I really appreciate it, Farron.
Man, thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you more.
Likewise. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. All right, again, this is the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. If you want more information about the orcas at ABA on Instagram, orcasaba.com is the website. Yes, it is a professional ABA basketball. That's right, the American Basketball Association. They've got 150-something teams across the country, and I'm a proud owner of 3 teams, and a part owner of 2 teams as well. So these are the platforms that we get to express our conversations upon around mental toughness and, of course, the endangered species campaigns that we're bringing in 2025, but also, again, sickle cell trait. So I appreciate this gentleman for being on the show. Like I said, I'm excited because it is now a care, and sometimes God puts burdens on your heart to care about. And for me, this is just as spiritual as reconciling, with reconciliation and forgiveness with men, and then also an inherited gene that has a disease that has no cure. So I'm in my element. We're going to play another PSA. I got my last guest that should be lined up for you, and then we're going to get out of here. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, also at kcaradio.com. Click listen live or watch live. Shout us out what's the count.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also, stream from the KCARadio.com website. Oh, check this out. If you want to download the app, make sure you go to whatever platform, whatever phone, iOS or Android that you have on your device, and you can get the app. Yes, KCA Radio has an app. You can download that and listen to all the podcasts that are on this show. Last I checked, there was about 150 shows on KCA Radio. I'm blessed to be one of these on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. We get our hour in every week, and this next segment here is just as important. As I mentioned, the 3 categories of my life that I'm focused on right now with the endangered species and the sickle cell trait and the mental toughness. Shouts out to Ed Blunt, who met this gentleman and had a conversation with him at watching a football game, and here we are today having this talk. You're live at What's the Count? You there, Larry?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. How are you?
Man, I'm good. Thank you for taking time out tonight.
No worries. It's crazy how quickly things happen.
For real. I appreciate you. So, do me a favor. Introduce yourself to the listeners.
Well, my name is Larry Shackelford, and for all intents and purposes, I'm fully committed to a program called 61 Golf, and that is effectively we're just trying to change the way people think about golf. That's who I am, and that's what I do basically daily, 24/7, and we specifically focus on young people. I mean, we encourage everyone to change the way they think about golf and get out and play as much as they can. But we really especially want to focus on young people in what we refer to as non-traditional golf environments.
Yeah.
So
and thank you. This segment here is my life towards sports, but I call it tea time for the golf community. So when Ed talked to me about you and golf, and I was like, man, let's go. I got a segment called Tea Time. I've been looking for somebody to demonstrate this conversation with me around this topic. So, and then to meet you and hear, like, we're kind of in the same alignment as far as the mental toughness and the way people think, not just about sports, but themselves too, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
It's just as important too.
It's it's really, golf is interesting, right? It's a very interesting game. And so what we do is the first thing we try to do is we try to kind of we refer to as we try to translate golf into a language that's easier to understand, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a myriad misconceptions about what golf truly is.
Right.
And one of the things that we do first is we just try to get, especially kids, to understand that it's fun. It's actually really fun, right? But then once they realize, okay, it's fun, then they get to the dip, whereas, oh my gosh, it's actually really hard too, right? So, just whacking the ball when you first get there, just hitting the ball and getting it in the air, you're like, oh wow, this is cool, I'm good. And then when you realize all the other things that have to happen in order to actually really be good in golf, you start to really recognize the challenge that it is personally, right? Because there's no rest, there's no teammates, there's no it's you against you, and trying to get kids to recognize that and grasp that concept, when they get it, it's like it's great, and so it makes things easier in regards to some of the stuff that you and I discussed, in regards to the mental toughness, in regards to, actually realizing what happens when you fail, right? Yeah. Because failing is part of golf. I mean, failing is part of life, but, you're not going to be good at golf unless you learn how to fail,
Right. And it's so important, again, as you we have these conversations, and we've had these conversations, for me, it's like learning about the power of the brain and the subconscious mind is like, that is sometimes our biggest hater is our own mind, because it's giving us these stories that you're not good enough, you're not worth it, the I'm not, I don't belong. Like, those are so many things that human beings deal with. And I didn't realize that for myself until I got into the work, that I was also one that followed what my mind told me, that I thought was the truth about me and about life. And it really wasn't after I challenged it. Right,
yeah. No, that's, again, one of the things it's almost like, cheating, right? Because the program, and, we talk about the positive aspects of golf, and it's easy conversation for people to have. Oh, yeah, golf is a great game, and business contacts and all that kind of stuff. People default to, the I guess the surface level knowledge of understanding what golf is, right? But the other, the thing that's really cool about it is it's almost so self-regulating. You know what I mean? Like, you're dealing with yourself so much that you either, And this is what's the beauty about teaching kids, because grown-ups, they all default to, oh, yeah, it's boring, right?
Right, right.
And that's just because they don't want to face the challenge of dealing with themselves, right? So they're
right, exactly, right.
They're emotionally mature enough to be able to go, yeah, well, this sucks, you know, like I can't deal with all this stress. The beauty of kids is that they're still so pliable mentally, right? They're still so they still can heal and develop and kind of learn from that experience, so to speak. And so it's really simple. It's really cool. It's like, hey, I had a conversation with a kid today in his family, and it was like, hey, look, you know what the rules are. You know who the ref is, right? Yeah, it's me. You know who? You know, golf doesn't have referees. You know, if you break a rule, you have to penalize yourself, right? Yeah. So this is all on you. It has nothing to do with any of the rest of us. And the kid got it.
Mm.
You know, and he's like, I really feel bad. And the rest of the day, he laid out what his penalties were going to be. He laid out what his plan was going to be to win back the trust of his parents and the coaches and everybody else. Yeah, this kid's in middle school.
Wow. And I like how you say that, because in even my own work, I didn't start this healing journey until 40. And, you know, the curriculum that I took, it starts at 8 years old. And it's like, if we can have this work accomplished at the level of an 8-year-old, where they don't have as much stuff, they don't have as much evidence that life is whatever the stories that they make up. They don't have that much.
Right.
You know, stories and evidence that life, like, I'm not good enough. Like, as adults, we've collected so much evidence that we got proof that I'm not worth it. We got proof that we got all these memories of situations, but sometimes our language is our own trap too, how we talk. So how do we talk to ourselves? Like, all that plays a part, you know, especially in golf, because it's like you said, you're walking from, if you mess up that hole, you know, that could be a long walk to the next one. And what are you telling yourself in between?
Yeah, I remember we discussed this the other day. You know, fire your caddy.
Yeah.
Because if you had a caddy who talked to you the way you talk to yourself while you're playing golf, you wouldn't pay him. You would fire him in a heartbeat.
Definitely.
You know? So yeah, I mean, it's just a great game, right? And the thing is that there are the other aspects of it. You know, you're outside, you know, which is great. You're outside, you're walking. We promote walking. You know, the kids all want to come because they want to ride in the cart, and it breaks our hearts all the time because we don't want to disappoint them. But it's like, no, if you walk, it's going to be better for you, right? So we promote that. You know, there are the economy of golf is robust. And so getting these young kids to think about working in golf as a middle schooler or as a high schooler, you know, those are other positive aspects of golf. But at the end of the day, the personal challenge that it is to be a golfer, we refer to it as complete and independent young golfers. Mm-hmm. If we can get them to grasp that, you know, the rest of it is easy, right? You know, it almost works itself out.
Well, Larry, man, I look forward to, again, turning the corner with you on this conversation, because it definitely aligns with what we're up to in the community, especially with our children being in schools and having lunch programs with football, flag football, soccer and basketball, and board games. Like I said, I think it's just something that the work that we do with this mental toughness, and if it's connected to sports, you know, it helps that child develop emotionally, but also mentally, but also physically, but also that identity. Like, it takes so much. It take care of so much of that person, you know.
Oh, without a doubt. Well, I mean, you know, tea time. We're available. We got somebody from 61 that'll be available to talk to you every Sunday. You know, so just let us know when you want us back on.
Let's figure it out, man. Larry, thank you make sure to give them the website so they can check you out.
Okay, 61golf.com. That's 61golf.com. And on Instagram, it's 61golf.
Cool, man. Larry, thank you for your time tonight, man. I look forward to, again, working with you in the community and figuring this out for our children, man. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KC Radio. I appreciate y'all for listening, tuning in. I'm not going to even tell you at the very end. I'm parked in the parking lot because I'm on my way back from San Diego because we lost this game today with the Ventura County Orcas. But I did not want to do a rerun. So here we are, taking time out to do this show over the phone. Shouts out to our engineer, Joe, for making it work in the station. And I'll catch you next week. FarronD.com for more information. Shout us out what's the count.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
KCAA.